Welcome, gamers, to the bite-sized podcast being Pocket Edition. Today I'm joined by Mark. How are you today, Mark?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. No Kermit the Frog today?
No, that's more count.
That's count? What were you doing the other episode then?
I don't know what I was doing. I was just vibing off the energy.
Fair enough. I actually saw in chat today in our Discord. If you're not aware of our Discord, you should absolutely join it because Count is frequently, apparently, in there at the moment, just throwing out all kinds of weird Kermit the Frog voiceovers. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but it's quite interesting. Anywho, Mark, today we are talking about the mini NES, actually. It is back. It re-released back in June globally, and today news dropped that it was the best-selling console for June, the month of its re-release. Holy shit. Now that means it outsold the PS4, obviously the PS3 and Xbox 360 and the Wii and the Wii U and all that shit, the Xbox One, the Xbox One X, the Nintendo Switch. It outsold Nintendo's flagship system. The mini Nintendo NES was the best-selling console on the market for June. Amazing. The power of nostalgia, Mark.
It was powerful before when it first came out and they couldn't meet demand.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it originally released, I think, November 2016, had huge supply issues, and if you remember as well, scalper issues as well on eBay. That was a big controversy at the time. Nintendo was basically having their own wallet robbed a little bit there. They had missed opportunity sales-wise, and that's pretty evident now that it's selling like it is at the moment. This current Steam will probably not last. I cannot see it being the best-selling console for 3 months straight or anything like that. It's simply because it's had its re-release in June. It is honestly kind of shocking that, it's the best-selling console of June. That is... I'm just kind of flabbergasted. The power of nostalgia is unreal, and it's great to finally have it back. I mean, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. Nintendo would be fools not to re-release it, considering its original run was only from November 2016 to April 2017. So, over a year later, it's finally back, and just look at it go.
It's amazing. I'd like them to do it with the Super NES next, because that was my... was it both at once?
I think the SNES. Yeah, the SNES is still out in the wild. You can still buy the SNES. Interesting point, though, that brings up is that the NES has outsold the SNES Mini. So that's interesting.
That might be due to the NES having more originators of franchises on it.
Yeah, that's true. And of course it is because it was in such great demand and many people missed out on the original window. And obviously everyone's jumped on it now in June to snap it up because we don't know if it's going to all of a sudden dry up again.
Yeah, if it happens again.
I mean, I don't have sales figures for the SNES, but I'm assuming the SNES has just been selling and tracking pretty well to date. FYI as well, for anyone that's curious, these are the MPD sales for the US. These numbers that we have on the mini NES. But Mark... let's jump into slightly different territory, just mini consoles in general, and I guess the overall power of nostalgia. What are your thoughts on just mini consoles, all these re-releases? Touch on the Atari box if you want. That's a bit of a shit show. We've been meaning to record an episode about that for a while, but it's scary.
Mark. I'd love it if by the time the console comes out is when our episode comes out. That's
the Atari.
That's what I'm aiming for. But yeah, for mini consoles and things like that, the whole it's not a new concept because we've been doing the plug and play consoles for years. It's just that I'm not 100% sure how well licensed those older ones were.
Well, the Sega gets cheaper by the dozen re-releases in terms of mini digital ROM emulator re-releases. Some of them take ROMs, some of them take carts, some of them take both. But from my understanding, the Nintendo one was a legitimately licensed Nintendo product that Nintendo distributed and oversaw.
Yeah, which is what made it such a big deal. It was Nintendo themselves doing it and saying it connects through HDMI and whatnot. So it's your old console but connects through modern technology, which is the biggest problem of still trying to run an NES or SNES today.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we all know, analog televisions are becoming harder and harder to find and secure.
And to maintain.
And to maintain as well, yeah, it's kind of crazy. And there's a lot of bad analog televisions out there, so it's hard to find just a good one. So yeah, it is getting harder. So in terms of preservation, it's a fantastic little system. My only kind of nitpick with the system is not having the ability to expand upon the original library, which, you know, I kind of understand why. You know, one, they'd have to release maybe a different digital shop for the mini NES, or you'd have to have a way of transferring the games onto the system, because to the best of my knowledge, the system has no internet capabilities.
I don't think so.
It just comes preloaded with 30 games. So there's a bit of there's a few obstacles that have to be overcome in terms of getting new games onto the system. Like, we've seen people hack them, they've loaded ROMs on. It is possible, but that's my one little nitpick, is the fact that I can't preserve all of the original NES catalog onto that system. So that's a bit of a bummer.
I think it would be a fun and clever idea if they released, say, another mini NES, but had the cartridge slot on the mini NES open, and your expandable memory or your separate games, like it's another 30 games, are on a cartridge that's pretty much a USB connection. You just like shove it in.
Dude. Like another best of release. Yeah. That would be so good. Oh, could you imagine that? Mini carts?
Yeah, it would be so awesome.
Oh, man. I mean, I would love that so much. I mean, I'm fairly certain it's not going to happen, though, because I feel like, you know, Nintendo almost feels like they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Because why release it on the NES when you could re-release it all on the Switch and have it exclusive to the Switch? That's the only place you can get all these experiences. So I kind of feel like the NES will probably more than likely never get any more games. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because if they do establish some sort of virtual console-esque library on the Switch, you wouldn't want to go backwards.
Yeah, cut into that revenue.
But if it's selling better than all the other consoles...
Yeah, I know, yeah. That's true. Flagship console, bring it back. It's just kind of... It always feels like a magical feeling. The fact that it's managed to do this is quite incredible. But what do you want next? Like, for me, I mean, I haven't picked up a NES or a NES Mini yet. I've been wanting to pick one up for a very, very, very long time. And I will definitely get one eventually. But I'm pretty much buying it for nostalgia keepsakes reasons, because I'm going to buy it and it's going to sit on my shelf, and that's basically about it. Like, I might fire it up a couple of times. I might play Super Mario Bros. Once a year or something, or Zelda once a year, and that'll be it. So that's the reason why I haven't jumped on it yet. But, you know, we've spoken about, you know, are Nintendo going to keep releasing these mini systems? You would think so, judging or based on how well they've been selling. So obviously, you know, if the trend continues, we should be getting a mini Nintendo 64, and then what comes after that? A GameCube. Are you pumped to get those systems?
I think a mini 64 would definitely be in order, because it's just, there were so many good games on it, and the 64 was revolutionary. Like, all Nintendo consoles were pretty revolutionary up to that point anyway. But it's like the 64 was when I specifically was growing up. The other ones were my brothers, and so, like, having Smash Brothers original, Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, even put on the 3D Castlevania games that were kind of crap, would be fun. Turok would be awesome. They can expand a bit more with a lot more, like, sort of third-party stuff if they move on to it as well.
Dude, that would be so
and
good.
Going chronologically, if they're doing only home consoles, you should do 64 next. GameCube would be a bit of a stretch at this point in time.
Yeah, because it's kind of too recent, isn't it? And those games are sizable.
Yeah.
Well, a lot more sizable than SNES and NES cartridges. There's a lot more logistical issues, I think, there. But that, you know, eventually that would be interesting. Very interesting.
One of the things that's been floating around is, like, if they do a 64, or if they just do Nintendo consoles in general. So if they did a mini Game Boy sort of thing, where you get, like, the brick Game Boy with preloaded games.
Interesting. So what would that... Do you envision that as just being like a handheld, or something that would plug into the TV?
I think it could be either or, really. Because, like, if it was a handheld, it'd be pretty cool, but it'd also be really annoying for battery and things like that.
That's true.
But if they did it home console, they could sort of... Like, this plays into the thing that I said before with putting an expandable cartridge thing for the mini NES. The Super Nintendo had a expansion pack thing that you could buy, where basically you popped your Game Boy cartridge into this tiny slot into this massive cartridge, and then you slammed that cartridge into the SNES, and then it would play the Game Boy
I had
game.
one of those.
Yeah.
I had one of those. I think almost every Nintendo system's had one of those, to be honest.
Yeah, the GameCube. The GameCube had it for Game Boy Advance game.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the 64. Did 64 have one?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I remember it had the Rumble packs.
The Rumble packs, the expandable, was it the random access memory slot or something like that? Man, that was a strange concept.
The Rumble pack looked like a fist. And it would make your controller go wild. But it was so revolutionary.
Yeah, it was just weird, like Rumble. Yeah, it was so
on the
strange.
most awkward controller ever. I think
no, it's not. The 64 controller is not one of those things I look back on with fond memories.
Yeah.
I would consistently, after weekends of long N64 use, like make my thumb raw from that terrible joystick. That thing was awful. And the fact that, you know how like the joystick cradle or the socket, it wasn't perfectly round either. It was like a
it was a hexagon,
like an octagon, hexagon. Yeah. And so like moving things around in circles was just like clunk, 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 clunk.
Yeah.
I don't know why we love that system so much. It needs a good controller.
Because it was like the first time we had a joystick. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Are there any other systems that you feel could do this on the scale and success that Nintendo have? Obviously, we've got the Atari box. The Atari box is a giant shit show can of worms. Hopefully, it gets to see the light of day someday, because although it is expensive, it seemingly is very promising in terms of its capability. The fact that it's got the complete Atari catalog, and it has the capabilities of playing new titles. That's a very, very cool way of old meets new. So hopefully that pans out. But is there anything else? Could you see Sega doing something more official? Obviously, they've had a lot of clone systems and all that launch in the past. Is there anything else that you want to see, coming back in a mini form?
I think Sega's done and dusted, sort of thing. They can do whatever they want. I'd be curious. I don't know if Sony would do it, but I'd be curious if they did a mini PlayStation.
Interesting.
Because, like, granted, we are getting a lot of remasters from that era and remakes lately, which might make the whole thing a moot point. But I think it would be better having a mini PlayStation or PSX or whatever, and it's got, say, the Spyro and Crash games original, and then has, like, Final Fantasy VII or something on it. Or, like, the old Final Fantasies, and, like, that general sort of thing where some games were sort of feeling their way out.
I think that would sell very well.
It would.
Sony, of all people, I cannot see doing that.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's sort of against the grain for who they are as a company.
Absolutely. At the moment, at least, anyway. Somebody that I could see doing that, which is, to me, a no-brainer, is Microsoft. Microsoft is very generous in terms of their backwards compatibility and their back catalog for the Xbox One X, getting Xbox One X enhancements for free. So, if they're willing to preserve Xbox One games on the Xbox One X, why wouldn't they release, and this would be hilarious, the original Xbox in mini form? Could you imagine that? The original Xbox, but like, the size of a palm, like the NES? And it's kind of within the realms of possibility, because Microsoft don't feel as protective over their back catalog as what Sony are. They seem to be more pro gamer. Like, hey, if you want to go out and buy these games again, do it. If you already have the game, you want to pop it in your Xbox One X and you want it to work, fantastic, we've got you covered. So I think if anybody potentially do it out of the big three other than Nintendo, it might be Microsoft.
It'd be difficult because the Xbox One has got a backwards compatibility for a couple original Xbox games, doesn't it? Like one or two.
The Xbox One X, or the Xbox One, it's actually quite substantial now, I believe.
The thing is whether they'd make a mini console thing like that, or just make the whole back catalog playable again. But then they might just go straight up and do the mini X with a downloadable library, because having a backwards compatible disc would still be messy.
Yeah, that's true.
And this could tie into the next box thing with cloud gaming.
Oh, dude. I was gonna say, could you imagine if they re-release a mini original Xbox and it's their cloud only service, and you just stream your original Xbox games from the Scarlet Cloud or whatever the fuck they're calling it?
But I think if they were going to have expandable catalogs, Microsoft would definitely be the one to do it.
Yeah.
Like
They seem to be
Nintendo,
very-
that was just all speculation on our part. Nintendo most likely won't, because that's just a Nintendo thing. They release something and then they sort of like dust their hands. They're like, all right.
Yeah. That worked. We made our money. We're moving on. What's next?
Yeah.
Motion controls.
Okay, we came up with a new thing. Just slap new on it. All right.
Cardboard. Oh man, it'll never happen. But if I could have a mini original Xbox with like, I don't know, this weird miniature Duke controller, I'd be keen.
The OG Xbox controller.
Yeah, the Duke. Little side note, have you seen the Duke re-release that came out recently?
Yes, I have.
How cool is that? So if you don't know, for the listeners, it's literally the original Duke controller. If you don't know what the Duke controller is for the original Xbox, it was like the size of a bread roll dinner plate. Like, people got hand issues from this controller. I had a friend who had ligaments collapse in his thumb from this fucking controller. Too much Halo LAN party. But anyway, for nostalgia reasons, a third-party company was given permission to re-release, with Microsoft's blessing, the original Duke controller. So obviously it released, but the cool thing about this controller is that the jewel in the middle, which was also the size of a dinner plate, is a little LED screen, and within that little LED screen, when you plug this Duke controller into your Xbox One X or Xbox One S, it lights up with the original Xbox boot screen. So a little slice of nostalgia heaven and sore hands for you.
That thing was a brick.
That thing was it was
like if you thought the N64 or the GameCube controllers were bricks, that was a brick.
Oh yeah, you could brain someone with this. It was astronomically large and cumbersome.
There's a reason why they changed designs.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you know, little fun fact about that controller as well, is the reason why they went with that design, that big, like, weird dinner plate design with handles, was because I believe, and, you know, take this with a pinch of salt because I heard this a very long time ago. My memory might be a little bit fuzzy on the details, but they took an existing board that was already in existence and they adapted it to be utilized as a controller. So that original board and circuitry within that controller was not custom to fit within a controller, so they had to build the controller and the plastic around this board. That's why. Which it's interesting. It's interesting.
Just imagine them slamming Tupperware.
Yes.
Just imagine them slamming different pieces of Tupperware on a motherboard.
Oh,
like, all right, we've got it.
Yeah, it's done. Oh, skimped on the controller. Something shocking. Anyway, Mike, let's wrap it up. Final thoughts on mini consoles and nostalgia power.
I think that they can keep on chugging as long as they're able, and it's pretty much takes zero effort on everyone's part, because the console, like, those game data is already out and about. It just takes a bit of like formatting and compression to put it on a console. Nintendo would be stupid to stop now. Whether or not we'll see it reach GameCube level is another thing, but I think that we're in store for an N64 or something equivalent to that.
Yeah, I could totally see, I mean, just my final thoughts, I think we will absolutely see the N64. I think they will pretty much just kind of encapsulate and capture the cartridge errors, which I think is a nice place to stop for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Switch went full circle and put cartridges back.
Oh my god, you're right.
And they're tiny! They're so tiny!
They really are. They really are.
I love that Nintendo have not abandoned cartridge technology.
Yeah, well, it works, man.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah. They last longer too. So let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you own a mini NES? Did you pick one up recently? Did you get one within the original launch window? Are you looking forward to other potential mini systems? If you could pick a mini system from any console manufacturer, past or present, who would it be? Let us know down below. Of course, remember to rate, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to check out our Discord server where you'll find plenty of banter and occasionally Kermit the Frog. And if you're listening on SoundCloud or iTunes, be sure to come over and check out our YouTube channel where you'll find a variety of content. Till the next episode, guys, have a good one.